we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of These People Are Just Eating Me, and talking about it and talking about it and talking about it and talking about how we feel better, and it seems to resolve all kinds of issues. And today's topic is migraines. Now, I myself am not a migraine sufferer, but I brought along two of my really good friends that know quite a bit about migraines and all sorts of peripheral information pertaining to migraines. So today I've got my good friend Karina and my good friend Justin, and then hopefully they'll do most of the talking and I won't talk over them too much. So anyways, Karina, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with migraines, and then we'll go to Justin and get his kind of overview.
Okay. Yeah, I would say it started about age 25, 26, around there. So I was already a vegetarian at the time, but it's I would say I started with eating soy at that age. Before that, not so much. That's probably something that added to the problem. And then I had a vaccination at the same time for hepatitis, and another thing that happened was taking antibiotics. So that's a little bit on the side, but I think that's when possibly my gut was a little bit confused. Those interventions, I'm not sure, I cannot exactly say, but that's the time when those migraines started happening. And there were premenstrual migraines usually, but then also when traveling long distance, after every flight I had a migraine. Thought it was premenstrual and stuff like that. So yeah, but then in 2007 I had a burnout, and before that I was really quite good at sports. I was running a lot, even marathons, but I had, after every marathon, I had a migraine, a severe migraine, and a lot of other issues, feeling exhausted, having a lot of time to recover from that. Yeah, and then 2007 I had that burnout, and after that I was kind of exercise intolerant. Forgot to mention that I had PMDD for a very long time, and this stopped when I stopped taking dairy and sugar, actually. So I had that for decades until 2007. So it was hard for me to exercise and not getting a migraine. I was feeling exhausted after exercising, having back pain and muscle pain, weird stuff like that. But I could never say why exactly. But then all of a sudden I also got migraines from dairy, so I stopped eating that, and I stopped the sugar. That was all right after the burnout, so I thought maybe that will help. And it helped a little, but I still had the premenstrual migraines and still exercise intolerance, and yeah, I had no idea why exactly. And then on top of that, it was also summer heat intolerance. So I got more migraines in summer, feeling more anxious and more irritated. It was kind of a cluster of symptoms. And yeah, at some point I came across the Angela Stanton Protocol. I was in her group and tried the salt intake. I tried potassium, magnesium, and everything, but it really didn't help so much. I still got migraines whenever I ate bacon from dehydrated meat and bone broth. I had a migraine from all kinds of foods. I just got a migraine, or I got a migraine when I didn't sleep enough. I got a migraine from stress, and yeah, just recently I discovered it was actually a histamine intolerance that was the cause of all those symptoms, the cluster, and especially, yeah, when your estrogen is high, it will inhibit the Diamine Oxidase enzyme that helps with the histamine, and thus your histamine gets high and then you have migraines. So that's the whole story in a nutshell. So now I know I have to take the DAO enzyme and then I'm fine and I don't have migraines anymore.
So what's your story like, Justin?
Yeah, so mine's a little similar to Karina's. So mine started when I turned 20. I just remember one day waking up and the right side of my head was just like pounding. Like it was so painful. And but I had other family members that already had migraine, sisters, so they kind of knew what it was. So went to the neurologist, got diagnosed, got put on a couple of medications. I got put on like an Imitrex type. I think it was called Maxalt, like one that dissolved into your tongue. And that one worked pretty well for me. But I was getting them like every other day. Like I was having to take like the Maxalt. And the thing with the medication is that they only give you 9 tablets per month. And so I was burning through tablets like so fast. And then if you take too many, you can possibly have seizures later in life, what I learned. And so I was like, well, that's bad. They did try to give me a preventative medication. I don't remember what the name of it was. But that medication, this is going to be really weird, but when I was taking it, I always felt like I had to pee. And then when I went to pee, I couldn't. It was like maddening. Like it was so. And so the reason why I'm talking about this is because the Western medicine or medicinal approach at the typical doctor's office, they're just kind of throwing things at you and they're just trying to hit spots in the brain. But we don't really have, A, the knowledge about migraines, and B, the knowledge about the brain to be specific about which neurons to hit or which chemicals to hit. You know, we have serotonin reuptake inhibitors, you know, but where that is in the brain, we have a decent idea, but there's so many neurons and axons and things like that in the brain that we don't know how to hit exactly. So I often describe it as like, you know, taking a shotgun to a wall and they just kind of shoot it and then, you know, yeah, they'll hit the wall and they'll hit something, but, you know, it's not very precise. And so I think that's why I had a very weird reaction to that particular medication. And yeah, I couldn't do it. So then soon after that, I decided to go the more herbal route. So I was doing feverfew, magnesium, fish oil, and what was the other one? Butterbur. I was doing like herbs and stuff like that. Kind of seemed to help. I was getting them once every 4 days or so. Then I got tired of that because, that's still kind of not livable. And we gotta understand, I'm like 20, 21 at this time. All my friends, everyone's kind of like partying it up and stuff, like out having fun. And like, I'm like struggling because, I'm in pain pretty much at least a couple of times, 3 times a week, roughly. And so then I end up in a naturopath office. I have a full allergy panel done, and it shows that I'm allergic to almost everything. Soy was a big one for me. I remember that. Dairy was big for me. Gluten was big. So I went essentially soy-free, gluten-free, dairy-free. Those are the main ones I avoid. There were some vegetables that I reacted to as well, so I cut some vegetables. I think I cut like tomatoes. I cut oranges, but I cut oranges a long time ago because I heard those are migraine producing. Citrus fruits. So I was gluten-free, dairy-free, especially for a long time. And so the naturopath had me on like 8 different supplements as well. More magnesium, more fish oil. I was on like what is it? Something for like hormones and stuff like that, because they said I had like my adrenal fatigue as well. So like all these issues, and that gets expensive, all those supplements. Then I switched to a different supplement company and did another allergy panel. This time only dairy came up, which I thought was really weird. Gluten didn't even come up, and neither did soy this time. So I'm just telling you this because these allergy panels are bunk. Like they really are. Like I've probably spent like, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 doing between supplements, allergy panels, doctor visits, because these naturopathic doctors, they're like $200 a visit, And so, I probably spent probably over a 8-year period, about $10,000 in trying to treat migraines between, like I said, supplements, the naturopaths, the other doctors, etc. And I was trying to find ways to cut corners and stuff everywhere. They put me on a different set of supplements, and I had them down to about 1 a week, roughly, which was pretty decent from where I had come from. But then last year, I got into a car accident, which I've talked about with you, Thomas, and I have a bulge between my C6 and C7, and that seemed to make my migraine shoot up again. So it was back to plus I think the stress of the accident and all that stuff probably shot them up as well. So I was but I couldn't work. I wasn't making no money because my car was destroyed. I was in pain. It was going to be at least 5 months of physical therapy before I could, get up and moving again. Or, to be functional to work again. And so I was like, I got to do something about this migraines because I'm just going to go I'm treating my migraines, we're going to end up homeless. You know what I mean? That's no way to be. And so did some research, found Angela Stanton's book, similarly to Karina and the group. I've had pretty good success with it. I still get some headaches. I actually had a migraine yesterday and into last night. So that's why I'm a little slowed down, as you can tell. But I didn't take any of the Triptan. I haven't taken Imitrex since July of last year, which is really, really good.
That's great.
So I used to pop those like candy, sumatriptan. And so that's really awesome. And now it's either, like I said in the other video, I need meat, sleep, water, or salt, one of those 4 things. And I think what did it was I didn't sleep 2 nights ago, and I hit the gym, and I had a fat steak before going to sleep, and I thought the fat steak would put me to sleep. But I think I was listening to something else where if you eat a bunch of food and then try to go to sleep, like it activates, it gets yourself like more hyper instead of wanting to sleep. So maybe I messed up there. Also, humidity messes with me still. So I didn't really get great sleep last night either, but better than the night before. So, you know, it's kind of like this cascading effect. But I'd say I had a really good, probably a couple of months where I've been essentially migraine free, like not even a headache before this, which is still amazing compared to where I was before. And now when I do get the migraines, I can still function. Yeah, I'm in pain, but if I'm focused on a task, it kind of goes in the background. And then like, you know, it does kind of come to a point where it's like, okay, I got to go to sleep. You know, I got to eat something. I got to have some salt, you know. And the reason why the salt is important is because Angela figured this out, of that migraines have to do with your sodium and potassium pumps in the brain, and how, so you have axons and you have neurons, and you need an electrical charge to hop from one to the other. And in people with migraines, if you don't have enough sodium to shoot it and enough potassium to catch it, at least this is the way I understand it. I'm not a neuroscientist. This stuff is like very complex. Then, you know, that brain cell and that axon isn't going to be able to be turned on or turned off. So it kind of ends up with this backing up, and then you get and then it creates the situation for the headache. And one of the, I think in Angela's book says there's like 150,000 like nerve cells like in this particular area of the brain. And so it can be like one of those cells, but once one of those cells starts to become like inflamed, then it kind of spreads throughout that spot of the brain. And migraines are typically on one side of the head.
Yeah.
And usually around the eye, around this area. For me, this is my migraine spot, 100%. Always know it because they're always here. It's just still like a little tender right now, but it's not too bad. So yeah, so that's just a quick overview. And if you guys want to go further into the axons and stuff.
Well, let me throw in a little something about allergies. Before I started keto and then went carnivore, I went gluten-free. And it made no difference. It drove everybody around me crazy because I had all these gluten-free foods, you know. And I was like, yeah, they're okay, whatever. And it was like, oh, get that garbage out of here. It tastes nasty, you know. And I didn't notice any difference. And I did know I had allergies. So, like, I know I'd reacted to tomatoes. Yeah, I would frequently get blisters on my tongue or in my throat from, like, things like walnuts, tomatoes, honeydew melons, sometimes even cantaloupe, weird stuff like that. And I would meet other people, and there's other people in the family that reacted to them. But when I would go have an allergy test, the test didn't indicate any reaction at all. So everything from, I think the first tests I did were like the scratch tests, you know, and then later on I had the IgG, EGG tests where they test your blood for reactions to things. And I came up normal on all of those, but I could have, you know, immediate sort of allergic-like reactions to foods and stuff like that. That was very clear. I mean, you could see, like, I get like if I ate something with walnuts in it, and not every time, but usually if I ate something with walnuts in it, I get these little kind of sores on my tongue, and then if I swallowed it, it hurt going down. You know, it was bad. So clearly the allergy tests have limitations, you know, and I think that's one of the things we're seeing too, is like, you know, the organic acid tests can be useful to some extent, but they're expensive, and I don't think we know enough about them for them to be useful half the time. So, you know, like you said, people wind up spending a lot of money on it and they get no useful information out of it. So,
yeah,
you know,
that's why I haven't done any tests. I just have the reactions, but I have never done any tests because for said reasons it's so expensive.
What I wanted to do was kind of ask you guys specifically, you know, what kind of time frame and what kind of differences you noticed going carnivore. So, like, what was happening before you went carnivore, and what happened specifically after you went carnivore? Just since this is a carnivore channel, let's clear that up, and then you guys dive into the details, and we'll share the slides and stuff like that. So, go ahead, Karina, and tell us exactly what you noticed when you went carnivore.
So I can compare it to the vegetarian diet. So that was in, as I had that burnout in 2007, it's really every 2 to 3 days I had some kind of headache or migraine, feeling exhausted and everything. I mean, I even went vegan at some time, as you know. That was in 2014, and I tried that for 4 years, and I would say I was even more sensitive, not necessarily having more migraines, probably not eating any dairy, not eating any sugar, also no gluten. I think that might have helped a little. Yeah, but I was definitely having migraines from stress and too much noise, and then yeah, in probably 11 months ago, I went carnivore, and it took a while until my body adapted, because I had been vegan for such a long time. So about 2 months, and I said that in the other video already that we did together. After I had chronic hip pain, chronic back pain, joint pain, muscle pain, all of that, and all of that really went away after 3 months of carnivore. And I had that for about a year, and nothing helped, and massage would actually make it worse. So I think it might have been an oxalate issue, maybe vitamin D deficiency. I cannot say exactly. Probably both combined, and yeah, just from the abuse of vegan diet. Anyway, and so that pain went away, but I still had that migraine issue. And for me, I think as long as I eat as fresh as possible, so I buy the meat every day, and I don't store it in the fridge for too long. I eat it immediately, and then I'm actually quite fine. And so far, I think I have a grip on that migraine issue, but I have to make sure that it's all fresh, and as I said, no bacon, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's disappointing. No bacon.
Yeah, but I mean, better than migraines, so
maybe someday.
Small price
maybe
to
someday.
pay. Yeah.
All right, Justin, why don't you give us a rundown of the before and after?
Yeah, so before starting carnivore, like I said, I was on those other supplements. I'm still gluten-free, dairy-free, but I ain't no sugar-free. I ain't no carb-free. I ain't no veggie-free. You know, I'm having, so my typical breakfast was a pea protein shake, a gluten-free waffle, and an apple. Like, I thought that was like the healthiest thing for some reason. I don't know why. Like, yeah, with maple syrup, of course. Of course, right? Maple syrup.
Hell yeah.
Right? And so then I had a really difficult transition period going to carnivore. So going carnivore, so I guess I want to be fair and specific. So Angela Stanton's original protocol still incorporates carbs and vegetables, fruit, a little bit of fruit. You can have like raspberries, like low glycemic fruits, and high protein, and you have to balance your macros and stuff like that. And I could never meet macros because you can have carbs, but you can't have like any grain. So she is grain-free, sugar-free, all that stuff. So I was like, how the hell am I supposed to eat, I don't know, something like 60 grams of carbs a meal or something. I probably have that wrong, but, and I was like, how in the hell without any grains am I supposed to hit that? And at the time I wasn't doing dairy, so I can't even have like cheese to up the carbs and stuff like that too, which I understand carbs are counted differently, but at the time, this is my thinking, you know? So like I was pretty much doing like meat, vegetables, and fruit, basically, or like some avocado, some tuna. I was doing like big tuna salads with like tomatoes, lettuce, like, you know, and stuff like that. And so she has you do this like 5-hour test, blood test to see what your glucose does. And then after the test, I scored it a certain way. And I kept seeing people in the forum on the Facebook group talk about CD and like ZC. And I was like, what the hell is CD and like ZC? And they're like, oh, that's carnivore diet and zero carb. And I had actually already read about it and heard about it from Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson. So I already knew what that was, but I didn't know that people talking about it said CD. You know, I didn't know the lingo yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then when I get the chance, I ask Angela, hey, can I go carnivore? And she says, yeah, because your blood tests or whatever. And even if she told me no, I probably would still done it, honestly. Because I was like, I'm not meeting these stupid macros. Like,
She's not your mom. Come on, man.
Right. And so, anyway, sorry, that brings me to another thing about the way that group operates. But we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm not trying to throw shade or nothing, but I got to be fair. You know what I mean?
You're right.
We'll get back to that in a minute. And so yeah, so I went carnivore, and I had a horrible transition period. Like, I think I had like a migraine for like a month straight. Like, I just had this pounding headache. But I was like, I need to stick through. You know. But the interesting thing is that I had this headache for a month, but my energy was still better. Like, you know, and like I just noticed like little things were still better. And then like, you know, month 2, a little bit of mood improvement, a little more energy improvement. Month 3, any, you know, more. This is a carnivore channel, so everyone knows it. But I had stopped taking the sumatriptan. So let's see, April, May, June. Yeah, I think I didn't take any. And then, or maybe I took one those months, but it was like I was taking one a month instead of like a couple a week, you know, or one a week, which is still much better. And then I took one in July because I went up to San Francisco to visit my sister for her birthday, and I stayed a week at her house. And my sister, she also has migraines, but she's like, I don't know what she does. She was doing like blueberry smoothies in the morning with kale and spinach and stuff, you know?
High oxalates.
Right. But she says that's how she feels best. So, you know, I barely started carnivore. So, and like her like situation, like, because she never cooks meat, you know? So it's like, you know, it was just like, I didn't have my stuff all set up like I do here at my house, you know? Which I think is like something that all carnivores go through, like, especially when you're new, visiting other people, you know, spending a week in someone else's house, like how you manage and stuff like that. And, you know, yeah, so she tried to have a barbecue, and like my steak got burnt to shit, and like, you know, I had some stuff. So I was just off. So I got like a wicked migraine, and we were supposed to go out like the next morning and then go to a club that night. So I was going to be gone for like 13, 14, 15 hours, you know, a whole day with 2 of my sisters and stuff like that. And so I decided to take one that night, but that was July 5th, and I haven't since, because I'm, you know, as long as I can control my environment more or less. I did go to Seattle in November, and I did kind of get one, but my sister, she had like better living arrangements, so I was able to cook like ground beef all the time, and she had like a whole cow in her freezer, so I was like, oh, I'll just grab this, grab that, you know what I mean? So it was much easier. So as long as I have access, like I said, to food, to water, beef, salt, and sleep, I do well. I don't need the medication, you know? So but it took me a good like 6 months to feel like truly migraine free, you know? And I know I just talked about having, you know, that headache and the migraine last night, but what I consider migraine free is being able to get rid of it without medication, which is something that I hadn't been able to do for, you know, roughly 10 years of my life. So to me, that's a huge win. You know, I'm still 100 times better than I was 10 years ago when they first started. And so, you know, that's to me is a win. And, you know, I'm still healing. Like my body was jacked up from the floor up, you know what I mean? When I started carnivore. So I've read about other people that, you know, it can just take like a mad while for your body to heal. And I think I'm still healing. You know, I'm on month 11 now, going on month 11. You know, it'll be my carniversary next month.
Yeah,
So
same
we'll
as mine.
see a year. And I heard that, like, you know, there seems to be this 2-year mark where you just feel unbelievable. So, you know, I know it's just going to keep getting better. And I thank you, Karina, for bringing up histamines. You know, we'll definitely have to talk more about that, you know, because I love Angela Stanton's protocol, but I don't think it's her fault that we don't have it all together yet. I think the brain is just that complex. And there's like, so her argument is the sodium deficiency in the brain, because she calls people with migraine brains sodium burners. We have a hard time. We just burn through it too quickly, and that's why she says it's too extra sodium. But Karina, you don't supplement any sodium, right, Karina?
No, I mean, when I cook my meat, then I add a lot of salt, and I like it, but I think if I would supplement sodium, that would really overshoot. I don't feel I need it. I do supplement with potassium, because in the beginning I felt a bit tired, and then I researched some stuff and came across the potassium deficiency, and then I thought, okay, I can try this, and then I immediately felt better, because I had cramps and magnesium didn't work, and after taking potassium, really, now I have no issues with that. So, but
Well,
I don't supplement sodium, no.
let me share your guys' slides. We'll let Justin. We'll show the Angela Stanton stuff real quick, and then we'll slide right into the stuff that that Karina provided. Yeah, I find that interesting because I think that's pretty basic sort of biology. I think we all talk about the signal jumping from across the gap, and you need that correct potential, which is based on the sodium potassium ions there. So without that potential, you don't get that signal jumping across. So it's very interesting. And of course, one of the other sort of semi-related topics that comes up a lot in low carb in general is people get leg cramps. And it seems like either supplementing with sodium, which I think is typically the most common deficiency, but people also supplement with potassium and magnesium. I think a lot of people jump to the magnesium right away.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind of
most,
associated with muscles. But
yeah,
it seems to me, sorry, Karina.
Sorry.
you go. You
Yeah,
go.
yeah, many people don't know it about the potassium, and then that's why I bring it up, that sometimes it isn't magnesium, it's really potassium that you need to take. But everybody's different. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I tell people it's like start with the sodium first, because it seems like most people that's actually what they need. But if you take the magnesium, it can kind of make up for low sodium. You know, particularly when people switch to a low carb diet, their sodium levels tend to drop in the beginning, and sometimes you got to bring that back. And the other thing I might point out is, and I don't, this is just speculation based on observation on my part, but it seems like as people that live in warmer climates, you seem to need a little more sodium. And also as people that drink coffee and tea and stuff frequently, we also seem to need more sodium. So that's just an observation, but it so far it kind of seems to hold true. So let me share, here's a picture of the beautiful Angela Stanton. Let me know when it shows up for you guys.
You got it. It's up there.
Okay. So this is Angela Stanton. She's the one that you guys both talked about. She has a Facebook group where they kind of coach people. And
Yeah, and this is a carnivore channel, so I do want to mention that she will be giving a presentation at CarnivoreCon this year, 2020.
Yeah, that's Amber O'Hearn's convention in Colorado in May, right? Late May.
Yeah.
Yeah, with any luck, you and I'll go over there and have a good time. Got our fingers crossed, right?
Right. Now I can meet her in person, which would be really cool. Because despite my gripes, I still owe her my life, so I'm forever grateful to her still.
Yeah, well, you know, and I mentioned a lot too in Autistic Carnivores. A lot of people, you know, they went on the GAPS diet or one of the other protocols and it helped. You know, I could say the same thing about keto. Keto was better for me than any other diet, but carnivore was even better than keto. So now I grabbed this image of this book. This is not one of the books that you guys read, but I thought I'd throw it up there anyway since we had it handy. And then this, go ahead.
She's writing another book that's actually going to be more focused on keto and carnivore for migraines. I think it's going to come out like next year or maybe the end of this year, but yeah.
And this is the book that you read, right?
Yes.
Justin?
Yeah, and that's the book that, you know, if I'm reading out and getting like more depth into it, I'm reading from it right now. So,
and I'm gonna just in case people are just listening to the audio, I'm gonna read the title. It's Fighting Migraine Epidemic, or Fighting the Migraine Epidemic: Complete Guide How to Treat and Prevent Migraines Without Medications by Angela A. Stanton, PhD. Stanton. I said Stanton. So, all right.
I think it's German, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it? Really? Doesn't sound like... Not typical.
No
I could be wrong. I don't know.
You could be. We could all be wrong. So, anything else you wanted to add about that you didn't cover with the Angela Stanton's protocol, or?
Oh, there's too much. We should keep running through the slides and then we can hop back onto it. Okay,
because the next set of slides are onto Karina's content. So Karina, you're up for bat. Let me flip to the next one. This one here are the symptoms of histamine intolerance.
Yeah.
So we got diarrhea, headache, migraine, congestion, runny nose, low blood pressure, hives. It's like a rash, asthma attacks, eczema, psoriasis, crawling sensation on the skin or scalp, hypertension, vertigo, fatigue, flushing, abnormal menstrual cycle, and tachycardia and anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can say I had a lot of those symptoms, diarrhea or constipation interchangeably, fatigue, and after a bath, I had a red head, and after running, That's also one of the signs. I had such like a tomato, totally red head, just like that. And it would maybe take an hour or so until my skin color was back to normal. And that's also a typical sign for histamine intolerance. And then, of course, anxiety, and luckily I don't have any asthma, but when I was a vegetarian and vegan, I used to have those weird rashes during summer. It looked like this. And it was only during summer, and that's another sign for histamine intolerance, because summer heat will increase the histamine, unfortunately. So I feel this the exact same way. When it is cooler, I'm really very comfortable. As soon as it is very hot, as in summer, I really have a hard time. I hate summer for that reason. But I no longer have those rashes. That's actually thanks to carnivory, I think. That's why I no longer have them. Yeah, and this is a slide from Dr. Becky Campbell. She's a functional doctor, and I think she was trained by Chris Kresser, as far as I know. And she wrote a book about histamine intolerance, and she also talks about thyroid issues. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a slide from Karina here. This is from Dr. Becky Campbell's book, and it says migraine headaches can be caused by histamine intolerance and a buildup of nitrate oxide. Endothelial monoxide is released by histamine. Headaches can also be triggered by consuming histamine-rich foods. Many migraine sufferers also have reduced DAO activity. So Dr. Becky Campbell, the 4-phase histamine reset plan, getting to the root of migraine, eczema, vertigo, allergies, and more. And you brought that up from a Kindle book, it looks like, that you were reading of hers, right?
Yes, from Kindle books. Yeah, and migraines is one of the typical symptoms you can have with histamine intolerance. As I said, I got migraines from various things, like eating the wrong thing, not sleeping enough, as I said, summer heat, exercise intolerance, all of that caused migraines. Being stressed caused migraines. Yeah, but for a long time I didn't know what I was dealing with, and then I learned from this book and from the different videos I watched about histamine intolerance that, yeah, that you can just take a DAO supplement and it might actually resolve the issue.
All right, your next slide says it has been found that estrogen triggers histamine release and that the histamine causes an increase in estrogen. The two reinforce each other. Essentially, if you have too much estrogen, your body is likely to be releasing too much histamine. Again, that's from Dr. Becky Campbell, the 4-phase histamine reset plan, getting to the root of migraines, eczema, vertigo, and allergies, and more. It's very interesting. that
Yeah.
sort of reinforcing cycle of histamines raising estrogen, estrogen raising histamines. It's a little bit of a trap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And especially for women, because we have that menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
But once you know your estrogen peaks, then you can get a grip on it, and you can take a Dow supplement during those estrogen peaks, and it can actually prevent migraines from happening.
It's good to know.
Mm.
Okay, estrogen can also interfere with how DAO and monoamine oxidase, MAO, another enzyme that breaks down histamine, work, which are important for breaking down histamine. Knowing this information, it makes sense why many women suffer from symptoms related to histamine intolerance right before ovulation. Again, this is from Dr. Becky Campbell, the 4-Phase Histamine Reset Plan, getting to the root of migraines, eczema, vertigo, allergies, and more.
Yeah. Yeah, the
And
problem, estrogen profoundly decreases the DAO enzyme, and then that's why your histamine gets high, and that's why you can get all kinds of symptoms. Yeah.
And you've been taking a DAO supplement, right?
Yeah, I have it right here. I can show it. This is from the Ancestral
Yeah, let me
supplement.
switch back to the, there you go, so people can
Okay.
see it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hold it up again.
This
I was
is one.
talking to somebody else the other day who was taking that. Was that Mark Wimmer? I can't remember.
Richard, maybe from the channel. He has also taken those supplements.
Richard,
He was,
Bart Case friend
yeah,
Richard
yeah,
from, what's it? It's Keto Carnivore Official.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it probably was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You
So
watched
this is
that, and I
one-
was like, oh, my friend Karina takes those.
Yeah, yeah. And then I have this one. It's called Diagnostic. It's also Dow supplement, and it's available all over the world. That's a company who makes them. And this is the other supplement, beef kidney from Ancestral Supplements. And as I was searching for a good picture of the Diagnostic, I have found this one. I have never tried it, but it has Diamine Oxidase. Interesting, much cheaper. Yeah, I will look into that as well.
Mm.
Both supplements are not cheap, but yeah, what I didn't mention, I had to take ibuprofen, and ibuprofen has a lot of side effects, and I took that for years. And I mean, my mother also had migraines, and she took a lot of painkillers, and she ended up having a brain stroke and aphasia, so problems to speak. You know, she cannot really bring the words out. She understands meaning, but she cannot really talk. And I mean, I do not really want to end up with a brain stroke. And that's, yeah, then I prefer to take a DAO supplement and not ibuprofen, of course.
And as far as I know, the DAO supplements are just made from cow liver, right?
Yeah, yeah. This one, this is beef kidney.
Beef. Oh, kidney.
Not liver. Yeah,
okay.
kidney.
That's right. It's beef kidney. You got anything to add to that, there, Justin?
Yeah. So thank you for sharing the histamine. I think that's what's missing from either Angela's protocol or
I agree.
That's what's missing for me specifically. I think I'm going to try that. So if I'm trying to decrease my histamine, like you already talked about bacon, I do bacon very sparingly. I really don't do it that often. And then eggs I cut because I guess the white or whatever was messing with me. That seemed to make things better over the last couple of months. And then, but I've also heard like ground beef has a lot of, well, what country are you in again?
In Switzerland, but the ground beef, there are tricks to do it. As I said, I buy it every day and consume it right away. And I always take the freshest, like,
Yeah, just the freshest.
they're the
Yeah, I got
freshest,
what
yeah.
you. Yeah, sure.
And
Lower histamine levels.
yeah, what you also can do is actually ground it yourself, and then freeze it. The freezing process will hold that histamine buildup, and then don't eat any processed meats, no sausages, no bone broth. I mean, everybody's talking about bone broth, but for histamine intolerant people, they will feel like shit afterwards, getting
I
a
guess some
migraine.
people get away with making bone broth real quick.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, probably.
But it's the slow cook, particularly slow
It's a
cooked
slow
bone broth.
cooking.
Is
Yes.
yeah, interesting.
Mm.
Because if the longer you cook it, the more gelatinous it'll get, and that sort of, the more you get out of the bones, but at the same time, the more histamines you're accumulating. So it's
Exactly.
interesting.
And for the same reason, for me, dehydration of meat doesn't work. I had to stop the pemmican. I loved the taste, but I got a migraine after it, so I stopped. So
Interesting. Yeah, I when I was on the PKD diet, I was eating a lot of liver, and that seemed to resolve my psoriasis. And then I went on another, more or less a bodybuilding diet later. I was eating a lot of egg whites. I tried to whey isolate and stuff like that, and then the psoriasis came roaring back. So now I'm thinking, oh man, maybe I do put liver back in my diet, or maybe try the DAO supplements to see if it makes a difference. And I recently just cut out my goat cheese. It was like the only dairy I had left was the goat cheese. But maybe there's histamines in the goat cheese, because I was thinking of that more of like a protein issue, like a casein A1 issue was driving the psoriasis, but maybe it's histamines that are the problem.
Because cheeses are high in histamine.
Well, why don't you guys just go for it? Let's hear Justin, why don't you tell us what you haven't had a chance to say that you wanted to get out?
Yeah, well, there's just one more question. So with the diosyn and the kidney is to help process the histamine? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the enzyme that helps bring that level down, because you can imagine the histamine bucket, and then whatever you react to or don't react. Sometimes you can eat something and you don't react, and then another time to the same food you will react, and that's because your histamine bucket is full. And then it overflows, and then you have the reaction. And the DAO will help to keep the histamine bucket low.
So do you think everyone has, or maybe everyone, but maybe more importantly, migraineurs might have a smaller histamine bucket than the typical person? Or do you think your tolerance might be way smaller? Because I don't know histamines are probably a problem for me, but I don't do a lot of fresh ground beef, and I seem to do fine. We have a friend, Emily, though, that even had some like CAFO meat, and she had what seemed to be like a big histamine reaction or something. We still don't know, so I'm kind of curious if this might help Emily too.
I'm wondering, Justin, what kind of beef? Where are you getting your beef?
So honestly, the 99-cent store.
Yeah, so
they have.
you're eating CAFO beef too, that's right?
Yes.
So that's the weird thing. We saw her have that reaction. To sum up the story, Emily bought a bunch of ribeye on sale from a store she normally bought food from, and she had a reaction to the ribeye she bought on sale, but all the ribeye she's paying full price for previous to that, she never had a reaction to.
Ah, interesting.
So the
why was
question
it on
is,
sale?
yeah, and she said the texture was a little different, it looked a little different, and so the thing is, was it a bacterial thing? Was it contaminated with disinfectant or something that they used to clean the cutting equipment with, whatever. We don't really know. So, but obviously, the longer the meat is aged,
Yeah, dry
the more
aged
histamine.
is not good for us.
But we don't even know if it was a histamine reaction, because some people would speculate that it could have been glyphosate from grain that the cows were fed, or on and on and on, GMO, because they're fed GMO grains. We don't know what exactly her reaction was to. Because like Justin and I typically eat what they call CAFO meat, which is confined animal feeding operation, where a lot of cows, just before they're slaughtered, they go to a feeding yard and they're fed grains to fatten them up quicker.
Yeah,
now,
probably I eat the same kind of meat. They have been on pastures, but then they are grain finished, probably. So.
Yeah, I can't tell any difference. I've been eating for probably a month. I've been eating grass finished ground beef, and then just this last week I switched to regular grain finished beef, and I can't tell any difference. So
yeah.
And then Karina, so you're taking the supplements and you still have to avoid certain foods, correct? So that your histamine bucket doesn't get overflowed. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, because as it seems, I'm still not sure if my body is not producing enough DAO, or if my stress level is so high that my histamine is at an all-time high. And I also feel the migraines, the symptoms before that. I feel them coming, and then I take a supplement. And I used to wake up with migraines in the morning right away when I had stress before. And now it's not the case anymore. But just to be careful and not have any migraines, I take them daily, the supplements.
Got it. Yeah. And so, just to point back to, that's the problem with all this, is that there's still no exact science. It's hard to know
science.
Exactly the mechanisms and how much and all that stuff. We pretty much, and then once we find something that works, we hold on to it for dear life.
Exactly.
Because we're like, we don't want to go back to those migraine days, because they're still fresh in our head, the pain, the throbbing, the dizziness, all different symptoms. It's interesting because mine always came at night. Night was always my primary migraine thing. So I'm kind of curious if maybe, now you got me stuck on this histamine thing, so I'm going to be obsessed with this for the next 3 months. I'm going to buy that Diocin as soon as we, are off here. But I wonder if I'm getting a histamine release at night, and so that's why mine always occurred at night or something like that. There could be like a circadian rhythm or some kind of rhythm in the body or my body that could be doing that. So really interesting stuff, really good stuff. Thank you for sharing that, Karina. You might have found my missing puzzle piece for me,
Me too. Just finally getting rid of the psoriasis. Maybe it is the histamine.
Yeah, I mean, eczema and stuff like that, that's typical for histamine. All those allergies and skin issues.
It's amazing how unclear a lot of things are. I mean, I think about, we all got into this realizing that our glucose levels were probably too high, which meant our insulin levels were probably too high. And then we get concerned about oxalate levels, particularly people on the spectrum seem to have higher levels of oxalate. They can't, their oxalate bucket is overflowing, their insulin bucket's overflowing, their glucose levels are overflowing. And then it's like, okay, well, what about histamines? Histamines clearly play a role. And, we can see allergic reactions to histamines. And you go to the pharmacy, you could see shelves full of antihistamines, right? So, and you take that when you're having, hay fever and it works, obviously, that, there's a pretty obvious mechanism that we can address right there. So I think the only way we can all figure out what exactly is going on, and there's so many different sort of groups of symptoms that an individual might have from any one of these, right? People aren't necessarily like, I've never had a migraine as far as I know. I don't get headaches, but I might very well be getting, my psoriasis might very well be caused by that. And that may explain why I have no arthritis anymore. My arthritis was crippling and I had psoriasis. So it was like, oh, you have psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, but then the arthritis is gone. I got the psoriasis go away and then it came back and I still have no arthritis. So maybe this is the key to this puzzle too. So, well, you guys got any other parting words you want to throw out there?
Well, I mean, if we have time, I kind of want to run through a little bit more of the Angela Stanton and run through what I do.
Okay.
This might take a bit, but if you guys have the time, Karina, if you have the time,
How are you doing for time, Karina?
Yeah, sure. I have no problem because I have still vacation, so I don't mind getting
Okay.
to bed late. Yeah,
Let's
but
hear it.
yeah, go ahead.
Let's hear it. Go, Justin.
So the problem is that, like we said, when the ions, they can't jump, you end up with what's called a cortical depression, which is a region of brain cells that are not able to generate voltage. These cells are in an absolute refractory period. And I think the refractory is when the pumps are open, but I guess they require more stimulus to open. So they're kind of stuck. I think they're closed. And this is a serious implication for migraine. So that's like kind of how it starts. And then you end up with cortical spreading depression, which in her book, she says, think of cortical spreading depression as people outside of the stuck elevator are trying to help by forcing the door open or call for assistance to start the elevator working again. The effort people outside of the elevator exert in their attempt to open the door may or may not help. If the door opens, all passengers inside the elevator can come out and new passengers go in and life turns to normal. If the door does not open, the problem is escalated to the fire department or the paramedics or repair company for assistance. While all this is happening on the outside of the elevator, the people are stuck in the elevator behind the closed doors. So that's like, as it's closed, as it's not able to jump, it just ends up having issues with more and more cells in that part of the brain. At least that's the way I'm understanding it.
And you're reading from Angela Stanton's work.
Right, I am. So the cortical spiral depression is a wave of energy that moves through the brain one directionally and slowly 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters per minute. Those with aura migraines may see a blind spot in their vision. So yeah, aura migraines are like, I used to get this like kind of blindness or dizziness or spots in my right eye, sometimes the left one too. And so, yeah, so that's a symptom of this cortical spreading depression. I just want to talk about, so as my migraines got better on carnivore, so primarily my migraine head is here, but for a while they started to hurt on the other side, which I thought was kind of interesting, but it was more of like a different pain, a dull pain. And then it would completely go away. And so that's kind of been something that was different that I knew I was having to change, was that the pain was different and it moved to the other side of my head, which I thought was very, very weird and very, very interesting. But yeah, it would be this side or the other side. And this side, like it's really like not that painful when it does happen. But this side's like the killer side. Let's see. And then I wanted to talk about, so when a migraine pain sufferer points and says it hurts just over the left temple or sort of behind, it could be in over 150,000 different places within a cubic millimeter of brain matter, the usual sized voxel, or the box in medical jargon. Yeah, so that's why like it's hard to determine, which of these cells.
Did you ever have facial migraines? Because I have them. If I have migraines, then they were also in my face, and then the whole side and down to my neck, but both sides. Well, once there was one side, and then it shifted after 3 days. It shifted to the other side. Facial migraine, even in the ear, down to the neck, was the whole side. It was really like so inflamed. That's how it felt like. You never had facial migraines?
I remember it would be so hot and irritating.
Yeah.
But for me, this is definitely the primary area. I do kind of have this weird like tooth thing, and I was talking to my niece. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it's nerve damage from when I had my wisdom teeth taken out when I was like 16. Because I have this kind of like numbness and tingling like right here, like all the time. And my niece was talking, because she just got hers taken out, and so she was talking about that. And what's weird is I always thought it was part of my migraines, but now I'm thinking it's nerve damage and not migraine, because it hurts even when my head doesn't hurt. So but it could, I think, might still be irritating the area, just weird things. I'm just throwing stuff out there, just how complex all this is.
Yeah.
And, if anyone else listened to this and they have a weird nerve pain, maybe, you got, some nerve damage there. I don't know. It's hard to confirm that too. But yeah, nothing like that, Karina. And I don't know if you've looked into cluster headaches. That kind of sounds a little more on the cluster headache side. But, those are extremely, extremely painful and even more difficult to treat. And we even know less about cluster headaches compared to migraines.
Yeah, I have to look into that. Okay. Never heard about cluster headaches.
Yeah, look into it. You might want to check that out. Yeah, those people like end up just like wanting to hit their head on the wall, and that's the only thing that feels better. It's really like interesting. Angela talks about them a little bit, but not enough to really go in here. You'd have to really pick up the book for that. So a little bit about sodium. Sodium holds on to water. So basically, she mentions how sodium holds on to water inside the neuron or cell. This is an oversimplification. Since sodium holds on to water in the interstellar fluid and not inside the cell, interstellar fluid surrounds every single cell all through the body. Think of it as a fluid filled with supply of energy and nutrients. Sodium holds onto water here rather than inside the cells, but short of having to explain this every time, I simply note that sodium holds water inside the cell. Let's see. So what she talks about a lot is the migraine brain. So the people that experience migraines were hypersensitive to like sound, even touch, light. That's why I still wear the Theraspecs, because I still feel like I have some photosynthesis.
Yeah, that's why I have the salt lamps and not the other lightning, because they are softer on the eye. It's not because it's painful, the other light. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, and so like at the gym when I'm doing like sit-ups, like it kills me because they have those fluorescent lights,
Yeah, I get the same thing when I'm at the gym. I'm doing sit-ups and stuff like that. The ceiling, they have these really bright LED lights that kind of look like the old fluorescent tubes, but they're intensely bright when you're looking up.
Yeah, and so the migraine brain, the autism brain, I think there's some similarities because people with autism also have sensory issues, and I've always had sensory issues as well, although not diagnosed autistic. the more I spend time with you guys, I'm starting to wonder. So, and the say, going carnivore helps. I have a lot of anxiety. Anyway, we're not here to diagnose me or not diagnose me. But there's definitely some brain anatomical features that are probably very, very similar, and probably why the same protocol can kind of work. The getting rid of the carbs, the sugar, gluten, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's all, something is happening in the brain with both that doing the same things helps. I think there's a connection there.
Yeah,
And like I said, especially
many autistics also have migraines, indeed.
So yeah, I really think there's something there. We don't know yet what. Let's see, these are the different types. I won't go into that. So she talks about prodromes. So a lot of the experienced migraines have, like I said, that sensation in my tooth, or I might feel like numbness before there's pain, or you might get tired. Some people yawn. Some people get actually the opposite and kind of like insomnia, before a migraine, which may have been what happened to me. Maybe I got out of balance 2 nights ago, and that's why I couldn't sleep, and I had insomnia, and then the migraine hit because I was already out of balance. So the thing about the pain, the migraine itself, the pain is actually the middle of having a migraine and not the beginning. So you actually have several different things happen. Like first it's in the brain, right? But then you might have some fatigue, or you might feel full of energy, or you might have some light sensitivity, extra, even more than normal, or even like weirdly able to hear things that aren't there, or someone's talking in the next room.
Irritated, like feeling some, reacting more to everything. Do you have that too?
Yeah, and like overstimulated.
Yeah.
So those are what's called prodromes. So you go through a prodrome phase, then the migraine phase, and then the postdrome phase, which is kind of like having, which I'm kind of at the postdrome phase now. And that's why like my speech isn't as articulate as normal. I'm a little more slowed down, and I'm a little off, and so I'm in the postdrome right now, which when you take the medication, or if you don't take medication and you have like a really bad migraine, the next day you could feel like hungover. I don't know if it ever happened to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that well.
And so there's 3 phases. And so, but when you go to the doctor, they only treat the middle phase, where you're actually having the migraine.
Yeah.
And they don't know about treating the postdromes or what to do about the postdrome, or, they just think you're tired after the migraine or the medication in your prodrome. And I feel like the triptans, the sumatriptans and stuff like that, make the prodrome worse, because the way the medication, they make you dizzy and kind of tired of stuff. So you feel really hungover and kind of strung out the next day after taking a triptan, which is why many of us migraineurs, like Karina, will opt for Excedrin, ibuprofen, Advil, Tylenol, in like 800 milligram, 600 milligram doses at one go, because at least we don't have to go through the recovery from a triptan medication. And so that's why, like me and maybe like Karina, I was taking so much Excedrin that my stomach would literally be in extreme pain if I took it. I had to stop taking it. Like I still haven't, and I still don't want to. I can't take any Advil, Excedrin, ibuprofen, because the last time I took it, like my stomach was so inflamed, and I was like, my head didn't hurt, so it was better, but I know that was so bad. I know it was so bad for my intestines, and I was probably giving myself leaky gut and who knows what else, But a lot of migraineurs will go years and years, we're talking decades, of popping Excedrin like daily and just completely wrecking our intestines and our stomach.
Because there's one choice. You can call in sick, or you can take a pill and then go to work, and you have to pay your bills, so you need to work. So there is no way that you can call in sick all the time.
So yeah, right here, a migraine brain is genetically different from a regular brain, and it comes with high levels of neurological sensitivity associated with hypersensitive sensory organs with a variety of anatomical differences. And so this is why with migraineurs, when we try to talk about migraines to people that don't have migraines, they have like no understanding, because it's actually anatomical and genetic. So it's like almost like alien, like an alien condition, to them. And so it's really hard for other people to understand, and so that's why, it's always good to have more people to talk about it. But the problem with a lot of forums is, they talk about medications, no one's really talking about, until Angela came around. And there's also another guy that wrote a book called, so when I went to go searching to help after my accident, I ran into two books, Angela Stanton's book and a keto book, The Migraine Miracle. I can't remember the name of that author. And I kind of just made a choice, I was like, well, do I want to try this keto book or Angela's book? And I just happened to buy Angela's book, instead of the other guy's book. So I don't know. There's supposed to be a lot of people that have been helped by his book as well, called The Migraine Miracle. And I know it's a keto protocol, but I haven't tried that. And so who knows? You know what I mean? And I don't know what's in his book. I don't know if he talks about sodium or what. He also has a podcast called The Migraine Miracle Podcast, which I have listened to before. But yeah, so there are different ways. That's why I'm saying it's not an exact science.
Yeah,
and like
but
I said,
I think, the carb intolerance of migraineurs, that's the main issue, and that's why those protocols probably work a little bit for many people.
I'll just throw in the title of the book and the author for people listening. It's The Migraine Miracle, a sugar-free, gluten-free ancestral diet to reduce inflammation and relieve your headaches for good. And it's by Josh Turknick. It's Turknett. And that's the book, and it is widely available. So I see it all over the place. And we'll try and you guys can send me all the links you could think of, and we'll put them in the show notes for everybody, including to Karina's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I will send you the links.
And Justin's got a page on Minds where he posts. He's our carnivore presence on Minds, Minds.com. I got on Minds the other day. By the way, did you notice I was liking your stuff?
Oh no, I didn't. I don't hop on there as often as I should. That's cool. Yeah. Okay, so the reason why triptans work, and they only work sometimes. So a lot of people that have migraines, even when they take triptan, sumatriptan, those are the class of migraine medications. You often hear the term medication failure, and the reason is that like I said, they act on receptors to release serotonin. If the brain region in cortical depression is unable to generate voltage, happens to be the one responsible for serotonin production, then the triptans will work. However, if you're having your migraine due to a different part of the brain, then the triptan will not work because it's not associated with serotonin. It's very interesting. So for me, medication often work. And because when I was younger, I was diagnosed with like major depression. So obviously I have some issues with my serotonin in my brain. And a lot of people say that they'll also prescribe antidepressants for migraines, like Wellbutrin or Celexa, if Celexa's still around. And the reason why it helps is because it's helping with preventing cortical depression, where the serotonin is responsible. So that's
Interesting.
why the antidepressants may help some people.
Mm.
Because when I came off my antidepressants, my migraines kind of did go up. But you know, they don't tell you why. They just know that it helps, but they don't know why it helps. You know?
Yeah, when I was vegetarian and vegan, I had depression, and then on a carnivore diet, the depression actually went away. So, right, quite quickly. So, I think there's definitely a connection between depression and migraines.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't have depression before having migraines, you'll certainly have them after.
Yeah.
Once you're diagnosed and how much of your life it steals from you, you know? Yeah, my depression's like 1,000% better since carnivore, you know, all the healing and stuff. So another interesting thing about migraineurs is that they often have low blood pressure. Like when I would go visit the doctor, I'd like to get it down to where they're like, you're nearly dead. You know what I mean? It'd be
Wow.
like 64/40 or something like that, like a couple of times. Like really, yeah, extremely low. That was when I was more of a teenager and I was running cross country. You know, I was doing 3, 4, 8 mile runs daily. And so I think, you know, doesn't that, like, you know, usually runners usually have lower blood pressure as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I was able to get it like in the dirt pretty much at that time. But that was before the migraines started. So that was interesting, you know. So yeah, my blood pressure, I think last time it was like 118/86, which isn't low. I think that's like a little high normal, maybe. But I was running around and I just did one of those little machines at the grocery store. So I don't know how accurate that is. But yeah, so that's another interesting thing. And, you know, Angela tries to be really nice about talking about the migraine brain because she says we kind of have like superpowers because we can like smell things that other people can't smell or maybe see things and stuff like that. But like in our modern world, like, you know, she talks about it was probably an evolutionary advantage at one point, but because our current world is so overstimulated, you know, that it's too much.
No,
now,
it's a disadvantage, especially with the smells.
We get that sentiment a lot in the autistic community too. It's like, oh, autism is your superpower. You know?
Not for
Maybe,
everybody.
maybe not. Depends, right?
Depends.
Yeah.
And yeah, perfumes kill me. Perfumes still kind of kill me. Like so that's another thing that may have started this is that I went to the gym and, you know, sometimes, you know, the dudes take a shower and then they throw on all their cologne.
Yeah,
And man,
aftershave.
if
Horrible.
I'm passing through, horrible. Like it still bugs me, you know? But yeah, so things like that, they used to like completely kill me. Like all my girlfriends had to be like, hey, I know this is weird, but like no perfume.
Yeah.
You know, or female friends be like, I know this is weird, but when we hang out, no perfume because like it just completely kills me. And it's interesting, Karina, you bring up the asthma because I actually had early childhood asthma.
Oh, okay.
And perfumes and things like that would aggravate that. When I was really, excuse me.
Makes actually sense, you know. Perfumes, I think even essential oils, I think they have something to do with estrogen, and then I don't remember exactly, but they will also elevate the histamine.
Well, I'm picking up Justin tomorrow. We're driving down to Long Beach to go to Adapt Long Beach. I'm going to be sure to wear my 50 Shades of Migraine cologne. So get his estrogen levels up.
Please don't. I seem to be fine with essential oils though. So I've always been fine with essential oils. It's perfumes, but I don't know, maybe I'll have to pay more attention. You know, I haven't really been doing essential oils that often now. You know, since carnivores don't stink, reference the video. There you go. So yeah, so just to kind of reiterate, this kind of, I feel like, puts it all together. A migraine will start when a migraine will start unless voltage is reestablished. So like you said, those pumps, if you can't start to get things jumping again, you're going to get a migraine. Voltage is the driving force of the ionic electrolyte pumps that are located in neural membranes, facilitating ionic exchanges between the inside and the outside of the neuron. Since more voltage use requires more sodium, migraineurs need to consume more salt, which is her reasoning. Migraineurs tend to pass about 50% more sodium in their urine, showing the extra use.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, again, that's her theory, and Karina, you may disagree, but I'm just reading out.
Yeah, it's okay. For me, it didn't work out with the sodium intake, but I guess many people can profit from this information.
So glucose intolerance, this is where I wanted to go. Glucose intolerance, while our body always need and use glucose, it can get glucose more than one way. First there's carbs, but this is particularly for migraines. Why it's explained in the book is that we don't need exogenous glucose in the migrainer. Let's see. Your brain, because I believe what happens is the glucose sucks the salt and water from our from where it has to go, is my understanding. Can you talk on that a bit more, Thomas? I was looking for the page, but I'm having trouble finding it.
Yeah, well, your body retains sodium and water when you eat. It retains more water and more sodium when you eat more carbohydrates as part of the process of balancing your systems, as it were. So there's a lot that goes into that. But that's why typically when people go low carb, they have a tendency to lose water and a lot of sodium with that. And sometimes it takes a little while to rebalance. And you kind of, it seems like what's happening is you're losing sort of the buffering that extra sodium-laden fluid would normally provide. So.
Right.
Okay.
So the more, it says here, the more sugar and carbohydrates you eat, the worse your migraine will get, because while glucose needs sodium to get into the cell, once in, it removes sodium and water from your cells, disrupting electrolyte homeostasis.
Interesting.
Okay.
So I know I'm going to kind of stop reading from here and just run through her protocol, or what I do. So I eat meat, and I have it set to where, so she has to say, because we need the water and the sodium to balance. She has us all track how much water we drink by the ounce. So I figured it out where I have to do 8 ounces of water every 50 minutes. That's 50, not 15. I'm doing 8 ounces of water. So that's why I'm often, drinking on stream and stuff like that, because my times come up, And then every other glass of water, I do 1/16 teaspoon of sodium, of salt, and I drink that down with the 8 ounces of water every other. And then she has us tracking like barometric pressure changes. She said that can, cause a migraine. Supposedly, if you're working out, you should like double the salt. So like every 30 minutes or so of intense physical exercise, you should do another 8 ounces with more salt. I don't really do that. I seem to do fine in the gym and after usually. And she has you tracking like proteins and fats and stuff. So her protocol is very, very complicated,
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't want to throw shade on the Facebook group, but if you do like talk about stuff outside of like the protocol, or
Exactly.
if you are like here, this is my issue, I had this migraine, this is what I did, like they give out lectures, and I think what it is just that they've answered the same stuff so many times and like they know the protocol works. But like I said, with migraineurs, once you find something that works, you hold on to it for dear life, you know? But the problem is, I think in that group, and maybe that's just the best way to do it, is obviously Karina and other people, other things are working for them. So obviously Angela Stanton doesn't have it 100% pat. You know, she might have it 95% there, but there's still that little bit of percentage. And I feel like the group could do a little bit better about being a little more open. But I understand
I
trying to
agree
run a
with that.
Facebook, but I understand the struggles of trying to run, the protocol's already this complicated, and I understand how easily people could be confused if more information got in. So they're doing the best they can. Like I said, I'm not trying to throw shade, but I think a lot of people get put off. I almost quit it like 3-4 different times because just getting frustrated, fighting back and forth because they have you tracking ketones, your blood glucose as well, and doing the 5-hour blood tests. All right, we got to go. All right.
Well, I want to thank you guys both for joining me, and maybe we need to do a follow-up on this because there's certainly a lot of ground to cover, and there's certainly a lot of people out there who suffer from migraines, and there seems to be so much overlap into everything else, everything from sodium to, you know, histamines and so on and so forth, potassium and so on.
Oxalates as well.
So, what's that?
Oxalates, that can be...
Oxalates, yeah, for sure. But I appreciate you guys jumping in on this. I know you guys have some deep knowledge on it, and I'm just kind of learning about it. I know I've been trying to learn a lot from Karina lately about histamine. So, anyways, but I want to thank everybody out there for watching. I hope this helps somebody out there. Maybe you could send a link to this video to somebody who might benefit from it. And please subscribe to the channel, like the channel, leave us your comments. Maybe you would like us to cover something else in the future, or maybe you have a suggestion or something like that. But again, I'll try and put links to everything we covered in the show notes for everybody out there. And until next time, everybody feel better, and thanks for watching. I think we're done recording, kids.
Okay.
Woo, that was a marathon.
Wow.
Yeah.